In parts 1 and 2, I described all the stances that a colour belt student should know, and in this third video, I'll describe all the remaining Taekwondo stances. To complete this series, in this video, I'll describe diagonal stance, crouch stance, X stance, one leg stance, bending stance, and open stance. I'll also describe some ready stances and ready postures. Diagonal stance, Sasun Sogi, is similar to sitting stance as the feet are kept parallel and the distance is 1.5 shoulder widths measured from the big toes. One foot is further forward by 1 foot distance, so that the heel of the front foot is in line with the toes of the rear foot. The weight distribution is 50% on each leg, and to keep the hips square, the knee of the front leg is slightly further back to the line above the toes, and the knee of the rear leg is slightly beyond the line above the toes. The front leg determines whether the stance is a left or right stance. So when the left leg is in front, it's a left diagonal stance, and when the right leg is in front, it's a right diagonal stance. The stance is used either in a full facing or a side facing position. Crouch stance, or Guryo Sogi, is a variation of diagonal stance as the feet are placed in a similar position, but the width of the stance is variable. Tension is created by bending the knees inwards, which allows quick movements side to side and also allows a quick change of stance. The disadvantage is that it's vulnerable against an attack to the knees. Like diagonal stance, the front leg determines whether it's a left or right stance. So a left crouch stance is when the left leg is in front, and a right crouch stance is when the right leg is in front. The stance can be used in a full facing or a side facing position. One leg stance, Uebal Sogi, is formed by standing on one leg and keeping that leg straight. The reverse foot sword of the raised leg is placed next to the knee joint, but there's another version where the instep of the raised leg is placed in the hollow of the knee joint. Obviously, the balancing leg carries 100% of the weight, and it's this leg that determines whether it's a right or left one leg stance. So when the balancing leg is on the left, it's a left one leg stance, and vice versa. The stance can be used in both attack and defense, and it can be in a full facing or side facing position. X stance, Kyocho Sogi, was mentioned in part 2 of the series when I described the X stance where the stationary leg is in front. There is another version of X stance where the stationary leg is at the rear. The stationary foot will face forward and the front foot is slightly turned in and touching the floor slightly with the ball of the foot. The rear leg will carry no less than 90% of the weight and the front leg no more than 10% of the weight. When the left leg is the stationary leg, it's a left X stance and vice versa. The two types of X stance are used for different circumstances. When jumping into an X stance, the front leg will become the stationary leg, and when stepping in X stance, the rear leg will become the stationary leg. Both types of X stance can be in full facing, half facing, or side facing positions. Bending stance, Guburyo Sogi, is mainly used in preparation for a side piercing kick or side thrusting kick, as I explained in the previous video, or for a back piercing kick, as I'll show you later in this video. In the Taekwondo Encyclopedia, it mentions that this stance is frequently used for blocking techniques, but it doesn't give any examples. My interpretation is that it's used as an alternative to one leg stance, especially in cases where you intend to do a side kick or a back kick after the block. The defense techniques that can be used with this stance are more or less the same as those that can be used with one leg stance. The balancing leg obviously determines whether the stance is a left or right bending stance. The Taekwondo Encyclopedia also says that this stance can be used in a half-facing or a full-facing position, but I don't see any reason why it cannot be used in a side-facing position when used for blocking, just as in one leg stance. Open stance, Palja Sogi, is rarely used in Taekwondo. It is similar to parallel stance, except that the feet are not kept parallel. With an inner open stance, An Palja Sogi, the feet point inwards slightly, and with an outer open stance, Bakat Palja Sogi, the feet are turned out by about 45 degrees. Like the parallel stance, these stances are sometimes used for blocking and attacking techniques, but their primary use is as a ready stance. In this case, the fists are placed in front of the thighs to form an inner open ready stance, An Palja Chumbi Sogi, or an outer open ready stance, Bakat Palja Chumbi Sogi. Although open ready stances are rarely used in Taekwondo, I actually see them quite a lot in my beginner classes. When I ask my students to do parallel ready stance, I usually see this. And when I tell them off for turning their feet out, I usually see this. Anyway. There are some other ready stances that I haven't covered yet. For example, X ready stance. This can be performed with both types of X stance, and the arms are placed in a similar way to walking ready stance with the elbows bent by about 30 degrees. I mentioned closed ready stance type A, B and C in the previous video. There is another, closed ready stance D, Moe Chumbi Sogi D, which is used as a ready posture for Uyam-tul. This is formed by adopting a closed stance and placing the fists about 30 centimeters from the thighs. Bending ready stance B, Guburio Chumbi Sogi B, as I mentioned before, is in preparation for a back piercing kick. It is formed by adopting a bending stance with a reverse foot sword close to the knee, and place the hands about 25 centimeters from the thighs and bend the elbows 30 degrees. Also turn the head to look at the rear where the target for the back piercing kick will be. Warrior ready stance, Musa Chumbi Sogi, is used for a ready posture in a couple of patterns. Warrior ready stance A is used in Yonge-tul. It is formed by placing the left fist by the waist in a vertical position and placing the right finger belly over the fist. The stance represents a warrior ready to unsheath his sword with the right hand. Warrior ready stance B is the ready posture for Yushin-tul and is formed by placing the left fist across the right hip and placing the right finger belly over the fist. This is the incorrect position for drawing a sword with the right hand, symbolizing the warrior's mistake, in this case Yushin's mistake. Up to now I've mentioned all the ready stances that are listed in the Taekwondo Encyclopedia, but there are some ready postures which are used for certain Taekwondo patterns which are not listed as ready stances as such, but are ready postures which can be labelled as a stance with a particular hand position. For example, parallel stance with heaven hand, Narani-so Hanul-son, which is used as a ready posture for Gwange-tul and Poeun-tul. It is formed with a parallel stance and the right hand is placed over the left hand so that the first two fingers overlap, and the right thumb overlaps the thumbnail of the left hand. This forms a triangle shape between the hands. The thumbs should line up with the eyebrows and the triangle lines up with the forehead. The wrists should be kept straight and the elbows bent to form a diamond shape between the arms. The eyes look to the heavens through the triangle, hence the name Heaven Hand. And Heaven Hand also appears midway through Juche-tul, but in this case with close stance. Parallel stance with twin side elbow, Narani-so Sang-yok Palku, is formed with a parallel stance and the fists are placed on the sides of the belt, just as in twin side elbow thrust, and it's used as a ready posture for Juche-tul. Parallel stance with X backhand, Narani-so Kyocha-son-dung, is used as the ready posture for Ulji-tul. It is formed with a parallel stance and the left hand is on the outside of the right hand, crossing at the wrists, just as in X backhand, which is sometimes used as a blocking tool in ground techniques. Parallel stance with overlapped backhand, Narani-so Pogaen-son-dung, is the ready posture for Tongil-tul. It is formed with a parallel stance and the left hand overlaps the right hand in front of the abdomen, just as in closed ready stance C. So if you haven't watched parts 1 and 2 of this series, you'll find them on my channel, plus many other topics on Taekwondo. And please subscribe to my channel, as I'll be releasing many more videos on a regular basis. Thanks for watching.